the glass the cider glows like amber. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel. Winter is upon us. Leaping is the fire, golden in the glass the cider glows like amber. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel. Winter is upon us.
Glory, 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 so the shortest day came, and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing and dancing to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreens. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long ages sing the same delight this shortest day, as promise wakens in the sleeping land. They carol, feast, give thanks, dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And so do we, here, now, this year, and every year. Welcome Yule!
Welcome Yule! God bless the master of this house and all that are therein, and to begin to welcome you with work now let us sing, with Palento sing merry, with Palento sing merry, with Palento sing merry, with Palento sing merry. Come ring with a noise, my merry, merry boys, of Christmas long to the firing. While my good dame bids you be free and drink to your heart's desiring. With Palento sing merry, with Palento sing merry, with Palento sing merry, with Palento sing merry. So now is come our joyful feast, let everyone be jolly. Each room with ivy leaves is dressed, and every post with holly. With Palento sing merry, 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 with Palento sing merry.
Maybe you'd like to show everyone one of our dances.
and our song is almost done, for we soon shall have the turn of the year. So fill up your glasses and let your health go round, for I wish you all, a joyful New Year.
Let us sing to the holly and the ivy.
Yes.
Holly and the ivy, now both are full well grown. Of all the trees are in the wood, the holly bears the crown. Oh, the rising of the sun, the running of the deer, the playing of the organ, sweet singing in the choir, sweet singing in the choir. The holly bears a blossom as white as any flower, and Mary bore sweet Jesus Christ to be our sweet Savior. Oh, the rising of the sun, the running of the deer, the playing of the organ, sweet singing in the choir, sweet singing in the choir. The holly bears a berry as red as any blood, and Mary bore sweet Jesus Christ to do for sinners good. Oh, the rising of the sun, the running of the deer, the playing of the organ, sweet singing in the choir, sweet singing in the choir. The holly bears a prickle as sharp as any thorn, and Mary bore sweet Jesus Christ on Christmas Day no more. Oh, the rising of the sun, the running of the deer, the playing of the organ, sweet singing in the choir, sweet singing in the choir.
A long time ago, if you were there then, you wouldn't be here now. There was a traveler out on the road as night was falling, the smell of snow in the air, and he was far from any inn or town, had no place to stay. His road brought him to a place where 2 houses close together. There, an old man and an old woman were neighbors. But it was a border that all they shared in common. For the old man was a miser.
And rich as anything, his house was so fine, and he was so cranky that he lived all alone. Now, the poor widow woman, she lived in a very small house, and although she lived alone, her door was always open to all of her many friends. Well, the traveler walked right by the small house and went on to the larger house, thinking that where there was more, surely there would be more to share. And he walked up onto that fine porch, and he knocked on that huge door, long and loud, and finally the door cracked open, and a harsh voice said, "Who is it, and what do you want?" And the traveler said, "May I spend the night here? I am far from home, and I have no place to stay." Well, the old man said, "You look like you don't have any home." And he looked the traveler up and down. The traveler had worn, thin clothes. His hat was in his hand. His eyes had a steady and clear gaze. He said to the old man, "If you let me stay here and you feed me, I will give you a gift." "Ah, man. You give me a gift. But the traveler replied in a mild voice as he drew a pine cone from his pack. I will give you this gift. This pine cone will bring you luck with the first task you choose to do tomorrow on the shortest day. That which you would gain from your task will be multiplied. Your losses likewise. Oh, really? Said the old man. Well, what if I'm eating pie, for example, or collecting debts, or counting money? Anything you choose, said the traveler. Oh, wait a minute, said the old man. And he went into his kitchen, and he pulled the blanket out from underneath his old dog, and he found some stale crusts of bread, and he poured some souring milk into a cracked cup, and he brought them out to the traveler and said, Here, these are for you. There's a bench on the porch. You can sleep there. Well, the miser slammed his door, and clutching his pine cone, he went to bed dreaming of counting bags of money. And the traveler, why, he tossed and turned on the porch, trying to find some comfort in the blowing snow. He could see, now that it was fully dark, that there was a square of yellow light coming from the window of the house next door. Now in that house, the old widow woman, she was knitting and rocking in her chair, and it took her a while, what with the howling wind, to realize that there was a knock at her door that night. And when she finally threw the door open, there she saw the icy, shivering, wordless traveler. He couldn't even speak. But she drew him right in and said, Come in, come in. Come in and sit by my fire. Let me stir it up. Oh, my, what are you doing out on a night like this? Well, never mind. You're in now. And then she put a warm soapstone at his feet, and she put in his hands a mug of warm milk, and she wrapped around his shoulders her own bed quilt. When at last the traveler could speak, he said, May I spend the night here? I am far from home and have no place to stay. The old woman laughed and said, Why, indeed, where would you go on a night like this? If you let me stay, said the traveler, I will give you a gift. Oh, I don't need any stuff, said the traveler. And he pulled a pine cone, another, from his pack and said, This is my gift to you. This pine cone will bring you luck with whatever task you choose to do first tomorrow, which is the shortest day. That which you would gain will be multiplied, and your losses likewise. Oh, well, thank you, said the woman. She took the pine cone, and the traveler rocked himself to sleep. This is very peculiar, thought the woman, and this pine cone is very ordinary. Yet it gave her pleasure to think of a plan. And before she fell asleep, she imagined herself getting up in the morning and milking her cow all day long. And with the extra milk, she would make cheese. And then she would take the cheese to the market where she would sell it, and then she would have enough money to buy everything fine to eat and drink and have a wonderful party for all of her friends. Well, the next day dawned beautifully, crisp, cold, clear, blue and white like a diamond, and just as hard and cold. The traveler, as soon as the sun rose, was out trudging in the knee-deep snow. Now the old miser, he woke up in his bed, and before he even got out, he thought to himself, the first thing, count money, count money, count money, count money, count money, count money. He started getting dressed, and he was putting on his long johns, and he was just about to put on his socks when he heard a sound that stopped him. What was that? He thought he heard children right outside his window. Oh, he looked. There was a wonderful sledding hill. There they were, playing, laughing. Oh, he'd see to that. He turned to his nightstand. There was a big pitcher of water. He picked it up. He went over to his window. He threw the window open. He threw the water out. He said, Hey, get off my land. And then he sneezed. Well, as he was still fuming, he turned, and he saw that there was another pitcher of water on his stand, and the one in his hand had disappeared. But he was so angry, he just marched right over there and picked it up and opened the window again and said, Hey, get off of my land! Now, his bellowing and yelling woke up the old woman. The first thing she saw was that her kettle was on a roaring fire, and that her quilt had been folded neatly, and a pine cone was on top of it. And the traveling man was nowhere to be seen. Oh, she thought to herself, ah, yes, milk the cow, milk the cow, milk the cow, milk the cow. She got ready for her day. Milk the cow, trying to remember to milk the cow, milk the cow. But just as she was finally dressed and turning for her pail, she heard a frantic knocking at her door, and in burst her young neighbor. And her young neighbor woman, she had her baby bundled in her arms, and she said to her, "Oh, thank goodness you're here. The baby has a terrible fever. I need to get some medicine, but we don't have any money, and I was just wondering, do you think you could? I mean, I wanted to ask, but I really..." And the woman nodded understandingly, and she said, "My bag is there. You'll find what you want." But the young mother said, "Oh, no, I could never, ever touch your bag. Oh dear," thought the old woman. Well then, she turned and took her bag, reached in and took out her purse, and threw it onto the table. The purse burst open, and the coins went rolling across the table. "Here, take what you need," said the old woman. And the young mother clutched up a few coins, thanked her, and left in a rush. "Ah, at last," thought the old woman. "Milk the cow, milk the cow, milk the cow." And she turned for her pails. Well, back at the miser's house, the miser was ready to count money, count money, count money. And he turned from the window, and he was about to finish getting dressed when he felt himself drawn over to his night table where there was another pitcher of water. He picked it up, and he stumbled against his will to the window, and he threw open the window, and he yelled, "Hey!" to no one, "Get off of my land!" That is indeed what he did right through breakfast, through lunch, into the lengthening shadows of the day, still dressed in his long johns and getting quite wet to boot. He bellowed, he blustered, until finally his mouth was opening, but no sound was coming out. If you went to the old widow woman's house, you would have heard quite a different set of sounds. From inside, you would have heard a musical jingling and jangling. From the shed, you would hear the cow lowing and complaining about not having been milked that day. But if you went inside, you would hear the tired but amused voice of the widow woman saying, "Here, take what you need." And then she would reach again for her bag, and inside she'd find her full purse, which she would throw to the table, where it would fall on a pile of coins, and the coins went all over the table, all over the floor, under the furniture, into the fireplace. Now, at sunset, both houses were suddenly silent. The old man stood at the window with a pitcher in his hand, and he sneezed. And then he lit a roaring fire, and he sneezed. And then he put a stack of handkerchiefs next to his bed, and then he fell into bed, and he couldn't move, he couldn't talk, he couldn't even complain about his awful luck. But he did. Sneeze. However, the old woman at sunset, she flopped down into a chair. She took a moment's rest. She went right out and milked her cow, and then she came back in, and she sorted, and she stacked, and she counted all those coins and planned the party of her life. And everybody came to that party, don't you know? Everybody except the miser. He was still in bed with his awful cold. But everybody else came, and they ate, and they drank, and they sang, and they danced all night long. I do believe they're dancing still.
What are they dancing?
Jump Jim Joe? Yeah.
All hail to the days that merit more praise than all the rest of the year, and welcome the nights that double delights, as well for the poor as the beer. Good fortune attend each merry man's friend that doth of the best that he may, forgetting old wrongs with carols and songs to drive the cold winter away. 'Tis ill for a mind to anger inclined, to think of small injuries now. If wrath you seek, do not lend to thy cheek, nor let her inhabit thy brow. Cross out of thy books malevolent looks, of beauty and youth's decay, and wholly consort with mirth and with sport to drive the cold winter away. This time of the year is spent in good cheer, and neighbors
time for a children's song. Children's song.
Now I go home, Beth. terrifies our land. I'll clip her wings. I'll cut her up. I'll make her buttons fly. That is my boast, and if I fail, then must I die.
It's an odd-looking shield you've got there.
Oh, Father. I've lost my shield. You see my
I be the dragon, and here be the claws. I be the dragon, and here be the jaws. Old St. George thinks he can beat my searing flames and flashing heat. He's done it many times before, but this time I'll roast him for sure.
Ha, ha, ha! You think you can slay me? That's a laugh with this sword. I'll slice you in half.
I'll slash you, I'll bash you, I'll crash you in two.
I'll baste you. Ha, ha. I'll paste you. I'll hit you with who? Ha, ha. Split you. I hit you. If I could think of a rhyme. Oh dear. Oh pain. Oh fool. I'm slain.
My great head and my little wit. This man is wounded sore. With bloody gashes, he's covered over. Is there a doctor to be found to cure him of his deep and deadly wound?
Yes, there is a doctor to be found to cure him of his deep and deadly wound.
5 pounds for such a doctor!
No, 10 pounds to stay away.
15 pounds for him to come!
In comes I, Dr. So-and-so, knowing St. George has a heavenly HMO. Here, Jack, take my old horse.
Hold it yourself, sir.
What's that, Jack?
Not yourself, sir.
How can you to be a doctor?
By our travels.
And where have you traveled?
Italy, Spitaly, France, and Spain, 13 times round the world and back again.
What ills can you cure?
I cure hippusy, pippacy, popsy, gout. Pains within and pains without. I can cure a big wart in half a day and solve the ills of Y2K. I almost cured a man who was dead once, but I haven't done that yet. Let me see. No. There, old tourniquet.
You who? You are dead. fight no more.
We'll all be brothers like we never was before.
We wish you all good cheer and a lifetime full of cheer. We wish you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Our golden disdain of the white maple tree. Yet what I have I give you my heart.
story? I suppose so. Once upon a time, in a country far away and not so far away, in a time long ago and just yesterday, a girl lived deep in the forest with her father, a woodcutter. The beautiful land around them had become cursed. A band of dreadful trolls had made a lair in a cave nearby and were wreaking havoc all around. No one was safe from being eaten by the trolls, and no one could kill them. One winter's day, when the sun was at its weakest, the trolls reached up into the sky, grabbed the sun, and took it back to their lair. Days went by, and the sun did not return. All was dark and cold. The woodcutter's daughter knew it was up to her to do something to rescue the sun. So she went to the village and sought out an old woman to ask her about the trolls, to see if there was any way to outsmart them. The wise old crone gave her a talisman that shone brightly like a tiny star. Well, the woodcutter's daughter thanked the old woman for her curious gift. Now she understood that the trolls hated the sun with a burning passion. With a borrowed sword, she set out to the wasteland that surrounded their gloomy cave, calling out a challenge to them. They rushed out of their cave, eager to eat her up, but she swung about with her sword, round and about, round and about. She was able to keep them at bay, but as their numbers were great and their hides were thick, she could not defeat them all. She was sure. Eaten. She saw that the talisman the old woman had given her was fading and nearly spent. She clasped the light tightly and started to sing. She heard other voices joining with hers as the rocks and trees echoed back her songs. The song reached far and wide across the villages and over the mountains, carried on the wind and repeated by the birds. People heard it and began to sing along. As the song grew and grew, the trolls shrieked and cried out and shrank into tiny flies that flew away in a black, buzzing swarm. The girl entered the troll's cave and found the sun far in the back. Gently, she reached down and picked up the shining spear and threw it back into the sky. The joyful woodsfolk prepared great feasts to celebrate the return of the sun and to give thanks for peace across the land.
Jolly old cock and his wings were gray.
Now
let us sing. Who's going to win? The girl but me. Jolly old cock and his wings were gray. Said to my love on the 12 most terrible bears, and they was a roaring. Animal bears, and they was a crawling. 10 old cocks crawled out in the morning. 9 old boars, and jolly old cock and his wings were gray. Said to my love on the 12 most faithful bulls, and sure you don't cut off your thumb.
And that's before Our Lady.
We wish your mares welfare, they all.
We are all we Marys and.
Everyone a stag foal.
And that's before Our Lady.
We wish your hens, they all may thrive.
We are all we Marys and.
And everyone lay 3 times 5.
And that's before Our Lady.
We wish your geese may all do well.
We are all we Marys and.
To everyone 12 at her heel.
And that's before Our Lady.
God bless the mistress and the man.
We are all we Marys and.
Dish and table, pot and pan.
And that's before Our Lady.
Here's the one with yellow hair.
We are all we Marys and.
Hiding underneath the stair.
And that's before Our Lady.
Be you maids or be you none.
We are all we Marys and.
Although our time may not be long, you'll all be kissed ere we go home.
And that's before Our Lady.
Here's one more song from the Sleepyheads, and then it's surely off to bed.
Oh, many a bird did wake and fly, caroo, caroo, caroo. Oh, many a bird did wake and fly, and filled the air with joyful cry. On Christmas Day in the morning, caroo, 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 caroo. The lark, the dove, the redbird flew, caroo, caroo, caroo. The lark, the dove, the redbird flew, and loud the jubilation grew. On Christmas Day in the morning, caroo, 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 caroo.
Persona